Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
No idea what the heck this song was ever about, but whatever. Play it anyway for the people who know what it's about. Together, here we go. All right, great. I feel relieved. My whole body shuddered at the profundity of the Beatles song, Come Together. All right, great. So here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to tell you once again, it's Friday. It's Rock and Roll Friday. And we're going to start with Open Mic to Mike. The phone number is 855-400-7282, and you know how that works. Whatever is bothering you, whatever the pebble in the shoe is, you call and we talk about it if you get through the screener. This is the list of stories on michaelsavage.com. Freighter was on autopilot when it hit U.S. destroyer. Now, that's a big story. I told you there was negligence on the part of the U.S. Navy ship. That's a given. That's been confirmed. Not one alarm went off on the U.S. Navy ship Fitzgerald when it was hit by the freighter. That means to me, and I was the only one in the media who told you what was wrong because I'm a boater. So far as I know, no one else in the media, at least that I know of, I could be wrong, has driven a boat of any size for any length of time, which I have for many years. I'm a boater for over 20 years. Both ships, to me, it looks like they were hacked. And the culprit would probably be North Korea. So the freighter was on autopilot when it made a U-turn and went at the destroyer. That's number one, which is very weird that no one noticed that it was doing a U-turn. Number two, the entire Navy crew was asleep. When a mountain is coming at them, it didn't detect it. None of our most advanced systems went off. Negligence, or all of the systems were hacked on the Navy ship, which means that every one of our ships now could be hacked and sunk. That's the new U.S. Navy, more concerned with affirmative action and, let us say, social engineering than fighting wars. That's what happens when liberals get control of anything, they destroy it. When it comes to the military, though, it puts us at great risk. Next story on michaelsavage.com. The latest poll shows that the majority of voters say the Russia case is hurting the country. No kidding. Really. Not everybody believes in her, the crazy woman from Southern California. Where is she? She shut her pie hole pretty. Where is she? She stopped screaming, impeach, 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 impeach. Where is she? New poll shows that the majority of voters say the Russia investigation of President Trump are hurting the country. The Harvard-Harris poll shows 64% of 2,237 registered voters taken between June 19 and 21, blah, blah, say that 64% say the investigations are hurting the country. Of course they are. It's a distraction. Bigger problems than that, okay? Much bigger problems. Topic 3. Linked up on the website. Alabama high school kills a conservative summer reading list because Michael Savage's books dominated. Now, there are other authors, some of whom you may have heard of, some of whom you may not have. But it's irrefutable if you look at the list that the dominant number of books that were on that list were mine. And it's interesting to see which were on there. The number 2 book that was on that summer reading list for the children is Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Michael Savage. Number 3, The Political Zoo, Michael Savage. The Enemy Within, Michael Savage. Trickle-Up Poverty, Stopping Obama's Attack on Our Borders, Economy, and Security, Michael Savage. And those are the top books on the list. So what happened was they banned the whole list in the school. They eliminated the entire reading list. So there's no bias there, no. So let's see what else is on the show. Donald Trump, yes, we're not going to mention Trump's War is Battle for America. You know about it. If you'd like to join the battle, buy the book or give it to someone. We then go down the list. Pelosi parties in Manhattan at LGBT night as dozen Democrats meet about replacing her. She's partying on while the Titanic is going down. She's on the aft deck partying at the LGBT party, not knowing that the party wants her gone. 1.4 million illegals working on the stolen Social Security numbers, Washington Times. Johnny Depp jokes about assassinating Trump. How brave of you, Johnny. All those men of action you play in your movies are all a joke, aren't they? You're nothing but a punk coward from Hollywood. You attack Trump, but you don't say one word about ISIS because you're afraid, you lousy liar, you. You're no different than the rest of them in New York and you know, they get me sick. They play tough guys. I'll punch him in the nose. I'll assassinate him. They play murderers. They play undercover agents. All they are is empty suits, every last one of them. I used to love him as an actor. No more Johnny Depp. No more Johnny Depp. Here's another story on my website. Judge blocks deportation of more than 100 Iraqi Christians. Now, on the face of it, you say, oh, why are they deporting Iraqi Christians? That's so bad. They should deport Iraqi Muslims. You're wrong. Because Trump's immigration service has put these 100 Iraqi Christians on the deportation list for a real good reason. They've all committed felonies in this country. They're not just being deported because they're Christians. First of all, the crimes they committed were major. They all have criminal convictions. And now, of course, the ACLU is making believe that they care about Christians, which of course they don't. The second thing is that these Iraqi nationals, Christian or otherwise, and we don't even know if they're Chaldean Christians, incidentally, many of them convert to Christianity upon arrival, even though they're Shiite Muslims before they get here. And all of them have criminal convictions in this country since they arrived. They're gangsters. Are you listening to me? Shootings, killings, murders, rapes. So, oh, they're deporting Christians. Who said all Christians are good? Where would that come from? You can wear a cross and cut someone's throat too. You can wear a cross and hold up a bank. You can wear a cross and rape somebody. What do you mean, Christian? They're criminals. Get them out of the country. We don't need them. Let's see what else is in the on the website. I don't know what you want to talk about. This you can't talk about. It's a great little thing to look at. 35 extremely sexist ads that you should see. They're interesting to show you how women were portrayed by advertising men during the Mad Men years. Every woman is a fainting wallflower. Everyone is weak, emotional, needing a strong man to guide her. It's really, I grew up on that stuff. No wonder I'm warped. It's very hard to overcome sexism. I got to tell you right now, I've made an attempt to it. I mean, I love my wife, I love my daughter, but the thing is, I must have some of those sexist tendencies. I got to admit it. I look at these pictures. I didn't realize what they were doing, brainwashing me. 35 extremely sexist ads that you should see. So it starts with a man in a suit, of course, a suit and tie. There's the woman over the stove with a hot pan, something's burning. She's crying, and he's saying, don't worry, darling, you didn't burn the beer, and it's an ad for a beer of the time. Can you believe this? You go down the list, it's shocking. Then, there's so long to go through these things. It's just an ad thing. Allow, don't allow, click to allow. Go. They get you so trapped with these things. Don't bother. You get the picture. There's another one with a woman underneath a man's shoe. It says where she belongs. I can't believe the stuff they got away with. But, the old days in this country were crazy in many ways. I remember there were ads before my time that I read about years later in the 1930s, before I was born, that it showed a doctor, a stethoscope and a white outfit. It says, more doctors smoke Chesterfields than any other brand. They're using that to peddle cancer sticks. Can you believe this? That's all. No calls. Dead in the water. Friday. Let's go down the list now on michaelsavage.com. My Twitter address is @SavageNation. Big deal. Dr. Michael Savage, PhD, facts on global temperature. I'm bored already of reading it. I feel I'm tired today. I know why. You know why I'm tired today? I had a really long day yesterday. I had a 3-hour show. I had equipment failure. I had to race to another studio. Then 2 wonderful people came out from the corporation who I was expecting. It was a good meeting. They were great guys. That was another hour. I was exhausted by the end of the day. I felt a sore throat coming on from talking so much that I'm going to give you the tip that I've used for years to stop a sore throat. before it becomes major. I have a little, I have my methods of doing it, and it's based upon 40 years of being an expert in nutrition, herbal medicine, homeopathic medicine, and all of it has helped me get to this point in my life. It helped my family enormously, by the way. And let's just say this. I won't give you all of the ingredients I use. It's not important. But I ended it with a tip that a friend of mine who fought in World War II told me. I don't know if he's still alive. He must be 90. He himself is not a drinker. He himself was in the Battle of the Bulge and survived by pulling himself into a dead cow, cutting the guts open of a dead cow and crawling into that mess during a German artillery bombardment. Can you believe this? He told me he had to crawl into a dead cow to survive an artillery bombardment. This is a frail man from New York City. You'd never guess, like an accountant type. He doesn't drink, but he gave me a great hint that I use with all of my vitamins and herbs, which is scotch, to gargle scotch on the back of your throat and spit it out. And believe me, it works every time, along with all of the vitamin C and the zinc lozenges and the special herbal spray that I have. The only thing is I don't spit the scotch out. I gargle, yes, and then I swallow it. And then I repeat ad libitum. That means according to pleasure. Now, I learned the phrase ad libitum when I was a 13-year-old pharmacist's assistant, illegally, of course. I didn't know. Don't blame me. A pharmacist hired me to give me less than minimum wage in Queens, New York. He's the nicest guy in the world. I needed the job. I worked for 75 cents an hour when the going rate was $1.25. I actually filled the prescriptions. I hope I didn't kill anybody in Queens. How hard was it to count out a pill? I was an intelligent kid. He sat there eating a lunch his wife sent him. Nicest guy in the world. He'd lean back. I'd relax on lunch. I'd take the RX and fill it out. And then no one bought. Then one day a New York City health inspector came in. And let me tell you what happened about the ad libitum when I return on the Savage Nation. Be here or be nowhere.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Everyone knows this song, unless you're a refugee. I mean, this is a part of the American geography. Everyone, even the coolest schmendrick in Hollywood knows this song. Could you play it more? I need more music today. I'm a little, fogged out. I feel like there's fog in my ears. It's like I'm so tired of hearing about politics. I can't take it anymore. That's what I do for a living. Play it anyway. Play more music. It's Rock and Roll Friday. Give me a break here. I'm going to talk about this garbage for another minute. I'll bash my head into the microphone. Impeachment, non-impeachment. He's up, he's down, he's this, he's that. The cushion is here, Knish is there. That one did this one did that. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat because of what goes on in Washington. Okay, play the music. So let me get back into the state of mind. Okay, that's a good... So I was telling you that I stopped the sore throat before it became major by using a certain throat spray. It's a homeopathic spray that I'm not going to tell you about because they don't advertise. Vitamin C powder. Don't use the pills. They're worthless. You may as well be taking straw from North Korea if you take a tablet. Zinc lozenges you could buy over the counter. And then scotch. I gargle it and swallow it. And then I repeat ad libitum. So I joked. I said, I learned the words ad libitum as a 13-year-old pharmacist's assistant. Illegal. I was a kid. I needed a job. And the pharmacist gave it to me at 75 cents an hour when the going minimum wage was $1.25. He won, I won. To me, it was a lot of money. I mean, it was enough money. I made a little money. So I filled out prescriptions. I remember to this day what a nice guy he was. Then one day, a New York City health inspector came in. And I didn't know. Nice guy, schmendricky guy, with like a briefcase. He looked like Bernie Sanders, let's put it that way, on a Jenny Craig diet. Like the suit had a tuna fish stain in the lapel that he bought it probably in college at NYU when he was studying Marxism 101. He stared at me through the glass over there in the pharmacy area. The pharmacist was eating his meal and dozing off. I swear to God, it sounds like a cartoon. He was dozing. He knocked off a veal parmesan that the wife sent him in a nice porcelain dish. They didn't reheat in those days. There was no microwave. And he looks over at me, and I look at him. I thought he was a customer. I said, "Hi, can I help you?" He said, "Oh, I'm just watching. You're just filling out prescriptions, huh?" I said, "Yes." What did I know? Bingo. The next thing I know, the New York City health inspector, look, he was doing his job, goes over to the pharmacist, no anger, no rage. Look, I'm sorry, there's a problem here. Can I see the work thing for the kid? And the guy says, "I have none. I gave the kid a job." He said, "Well, I need to know how old he is." And so he got fined. I felt so bad. When I heard about it, the pharmacist wasn't mad at me. I thought he should be mad at me, that I did something wrong. It just shows you how children have a guilt complex built right into them. In other words, the pharmacist actually did it to save money. I didn't know it was really that bad. And he was fined, I don't know, $500. That was a lot of money. I felt bad, so I kept apologizing. "I'm very sorry, doc," this and that. And he said, no, don't worry about it. He said, I should have known better. Don't worry. He said, "You really can't fill prescriptions anymore, but I'll keep you on the job. You can do stocking and this and that." And he gave me like a dust thing. I went around and dusted like stuff that only sold around Christmas. They used to stock pharmacies with like, what do you call it, that you put on the face. I never used that stuff. They smell like lime, like lime juice. I don't know what they put on your face, like lime lotion. All that stuff, like pomades. And then no one bought that stuff. The stuff turned yellow and green till Christmas time came. Then they sold it at a discount. I remember when that lime stuff came around, I thought it was so amazing that you could make yourself smell like that. I mean, when I was a teenager, I started using it, thinking girls would like it. They'd run away from me. Who wants to be around that? Only car dealers in like Brooklyn wear that to this day, or in regions of the Bay Area that you don't even want to go in without an armed guard. These guys shake your hand. There's some guy, I'm not knocking you, but there's certain cultures that use a very high amount of cologne, male cologne. I hate the stuff. If they touch your car seat, you cannot get it off. There is no chemical remover that can remove the cologne that men of a certain ethnic background use on their hands and body. I don't know what it is. They come from another country and they're cologned up. They come near you, allergy attack. You need to see an allergist after they sit in the car with you. They touch the upholstery, you have to have the upholstery ripped out. I don't know what's in this cologne. But in those days, they sold that stuff in pharmacies, as I was saying. So that's the story of Michael Savage as a pharmacist's assistant when I was 13 years old.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE. Savage.
It's been a hard day's night, and I've been working.
I slept well. It wasn't that hard.
It's been a hard day's night.
Thank God. I mean, I sleep good. The thing is that the weather out here on the West Coast, and you're not supposed to talk about it. We had a heat wave. It lasts 6 days. That's typical. That's all we get here. And now it's cool again. It's crazy. You go from an undershirt. Now I needed a coat this morning, a winter coat. So I wake up and I see Johnny Depp now, Mr. Tough Guy. He dreams of the last, assassinated the president. Oh, I'm not speaking of anyone. I'm not an actor. I'm not John Wilkes Booth. He plays tough guys, undercover cops, and look what it turns out. He's just a punk, another punk radical phony from Hollywood. I want to ask you something. When the savior of humanity, the Nobel Prize winner who did nothing, Obama was president, what if a right-wing actor or any actor had said, "I dream of being the next actor to kill a president"? What if during the savior of humanity's reign of terror, someone from the other side of the aisle was on a television show and did what Kathy Griffin did and held up a head of Obama on a platter? What if, you get the picture, the Secret Service would have had them body slammed to the ground and probably rubber hosed them in a back room. They probably would have brought their mother in for interrogation and ripped their house apart. So you want to play the knockout game, keep playing it because the tide is turning. And you're going to be taken down by the new Secret Service. Trump is being kept off guard by the left for a reason. They don't want his agenda imposed because it would cost them a lot of money. And they lose a lot of voters once people see how much better the country is when it's cleaned up. So naturally, they're doing everything they can to impede the revolution that we started in this country by having, brought him forward and having gotten him elected. But once these shackles are removed from Trump, my suspicion is, I say it's 60-40, he's going to fire Mueller. I think he has the power now and the mandate, and everyone sees that Mueller's stocking the prosecutorial bench with devout Hillary supporters. People know Mueller's a fraud, just like Comey. They're all part of the same crowd. They don't want him to be president. Mueller's out. Trump has the power. So what's going to happen? They're going to get mad at him on television? What, Phil Griffin's going to get mad at him? The jerk who runs CNN's going to get mad at him? What do I care? They're not the president. So I think Trump will dump Mueller, and that'll be the end of it. People forget it in 2 minutes. The only ones who won't let it go will be the mad cows. That's all. So 855-407-2882 phone number. Open mic to Mike Friday. I really don't want any remedies, please. So drop line 1. If it works for you, good. I don't want your remedies. I got my own. Just the vitamin C, the spray, the zinc lozenges, and the Scotch gargle, then swallow ad libitum. And then watch television alone with a dog. Teddy's, by the way, it's sad, but, he's okay, but not really. He's getting old. He's been the mascot of this show. God, it's long. I've been on 22 years. I remember when he was a baby and black fur. He's gray now. He's a, gray poodle. He's 13. But he has issues. He coughs almost like a hacking death cough. Yesterday he went to 2 doctors. Tomorrow I'm taking him in for an x-ray. This is very much like an aged parent, an aged pet. Do you know that? And I look at him every day with different eyes. I try to be kinder to him than I've ever been, and I'm really kind to him. The judgment of a person is how kind you are to an animal. You do know that. And there's one religion on earth that hates dogs. Did you know that? They don't have any pets in their house. Only one. It's against their religion. I didn't say that. If it wasn't true, I wouldn't say it. I want you to think about that. Years ago, I wrote a book called Teddy and Me, Confessions of a Service Human. I love that book. So he's with the care person. He every Friday, Monday, gets his hair done. If I could get the money back I spent on doing this dog's hair. But it's the way of all flesh. I mean, you think about it. Okay, so how many years is human years to a dog? They used to say 7. It's not 7 anymore. It's like us. 7 times 13, he'd be what? 101? 70, 321, 91. He's not 91. He's not acting like a 91-year-old, but I'd say he's more like a 65-year-old in your father's generation. It's like 5 to 1, maybe 5 times 13, 15. That would still, but 65. But the little dogs tend to live longer than the big. That's the good part. They're spunky. They got a little extra battery in them. The big dogs go. They go. I had a friend who owned an Irish Wolfhound, 5 years old. Used to own a bar up in North Beach. And he's shame he went out of business. I love that bar. And he had a dog, Fian, an Irish Wolfhound. I had never known the Irish Wolfhound being from New York. I never saw one as a kid. I never knew of one. They're too big for an apartment. So that dog, I remember he'd always lay like in the sawdust. He liked the smell of beer and hops. He never bothered anyone. That dog was 135, 40 pounds, like legs on him. You never saw anything like it. They're trained to kill. They're bred to kill wolves in the pack. They're pretty amazing animals. Not Teddy now. I've switched. Well, one day I'm sitting in that bar outside having a beer, and he was laying outside. Like a dog walked by on a street, on Stockton Street. This is on Green Street across from the funeral parlor, the Green Street mortuary. And somebody walked by. A dog went by down on Stockton Street. That dog took off. In like 4 lopes, he was on Stockton Street. I never saw a dog like that. Amazing. Just a side dog story, that's all. And so, I don't know. If Teddy, if Teddy gets sick, you'll know about it. I mean, tomorrow's the new x-ray. What are you supposed to do with him? I don't want to get overly sentimental and maudlin about it, but he's a big part of my life. He's been the mascot of this show for so many years. How could he have been on the stage? He wasn't 20 years ago. Was on stage 19. I was on stage in the Concord Pavilion. 7,000 screaming, paying fans when I came out in the Cadillac. Teddy was with me when he was a puppy. I don't know the year of that. Must have been 13 years ago. That was the last live performance I ever did. Teddy and Me, Confessions of a Servicehuman. You know he is famous? Do you know if I was a psycho-liberal who said assassinate the president, this dog would be on Good Morning America? They'd be making movies about him at Disney. This dog is the most famous dog in America and absolutely the most charming dog on earth, but because of the vermin in the media on the left, they're so sick that they'll even take it out on a dog. That's all. Chapter 1, you can judge people by how they treat dogs, best friends. Teddy is my co-pilot. That's when I had the picture of me with the car, the Dodge Hellcat. The Dodge Hellcat, which I rarely drive. I keep thinking it's me a collector's car in 20 years. The greatest pictures in that book are toward the end where I'm wearing a like tan sheepskin shearling jacket I bought 30 years ago. By the way, I appeared in that jacket when Teddy was with me on stage. That's a famous jacket. I'll auction it off one day, right? For $3. But toward the end, he's wearing a jacket exactly like mine. I don't know how that worked out. And I'm in a bar somewhere, and I'm holding a vodka. It says, wait, number 1, I have the first drink of my, it says Teddy Eats Out. It's a whole chapter. So I'm holding a glass, like an up glass, the triangular, like, and it says, at last, relief has arrived, and Teddy is staring right at me, smiling. Then it says, it's number 2, Teddy, and away we go, and he's smiling even more. And the third one, it's me looking at him, and I'm saying, Ted, I'm feeling no pain. And he's smiling. And to all a good night, Ted, did you call Uber? It's cute. Again, if I were a liberal piece of garbage who extolled drugs and killing conservatives, they'd be laughing on HBO and offering me an around-the-clock performance for whatever, at any price I wanted, with the dog. It just shows you how sick the country is today because of the Salentarites who run the media. It's sickening what they are. How did they take over everything? You know, that's an interesting question that I've never really analyzed. Why are all the media outlets run and owned by liberals? How is that possible? Why are there no conservatives who own a major stake in a major media outlet? Why? How is it that all of these boys from New York City, all of those who grew up hating America, parents were communists or socialists, they went to communist camps as kids, they went to horrible colleges, they come out hating the country. How come they're the only ones who run all the networks? Why? All the movie studios, with almost no exception. You're telling me there are no intelligent, rich people with money? Well, there are, a lot of them. Well, why don't they own the networks? Who blocks them from it? That's what I want to know, because this has got to stop. We need some competition in the media more than anything. And you know something? I would like to see Donald Trump crack down through the FCC on this monopoly of opinion. You know, I keep talking about bust the trust, break up the monopolies like Google, Facebook. What about the monopoly of opinion, where you never see a conservative on MSNBC, you never see a conservative on CNN, you do see them on Fox News, but never on ABC, CBS, or NBC. That is a monopoly of opinion. We cannot afford that. This is a divided nation. I want equal time. I want the fairness doctrine on those channels. I demand it. That's what I would like to see happen in this country. And guess what? It's just liable to happen in your lifetime. Now let's go to the we got some callers on the really important stories. The news story came out today on the crash of the ship, the Navy ship with the freighter. To me, absolutely, from the day it happened, I told you what I thought. I didn't read blogs to figure it out. I used common sense and the fact that I am a boater. So it comes out today. Finally, only like a week later, they released the information that, where's the article? It's on michaelsavage.com, that the freighter was on autopilot when it struck the Navy ship. Well, even if that is true, that raises even more questions than before. One, why was it on autopilot? Remember, people were calling and saying, Mike, no, I'm sorry, you're wrong. It was in crowded waters. I said, that's rubbish. All Navy ships go into crowded waters when they come home to go to a port. What, should every ship get out of the way? That's what makes you a captain, is you know how to navigate through crowded harbors. Otherwise, you shouldn't be a naval captain. So that's number one. But number two, there was no crowding. In other words, if the freighter could be on autopilot, it means they were in open waters. I knew that right off the get-go from where they were out there at the sea. So the Navy ship, number one, is struck, and not one warning light or alarm went off on the Navy ship. Not one of the watchmen saw it coming. Okay, so let's, for a minute, put our thinking caps on. It means now to me that probably, well, a foreign power hacked both the freighter and the Navy ship, got into the electronics, and so steered the freighter at the Navy ship, because if you look at the map, they did a U-turn right at the ship. And then the minute they hit the ship, they hightailed it back toward Japan. So the Navy ship now is sitting there, doesn't see the freighter coming. There's the most expensive warning systems in the world are on our warships. They were all turned off. That's the only explanation for this wreckage that I see. Now, we have a Navy vet on the line, Lavelle from WGAL in Philadelphia. Oh, no, yeah? I don't know. Lavelle, WGAL Radio. Go ahead, please. Where are you calling from?
Oh, hi, Dr. Savage. I'm in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia.
All right, so are you a former naval guy?
Yes, I am. I served in the Navy and did 3 combat missions in Vietnam.
Good for you. Congratulations, and thank you for your service.
Oh.
What do you make of my account that these boats were hacked?
Well, I believe you, and I know that the Navy captain will be 100% responsible, whether he's right or wrong.
That's right. That's what I said from the beginning. I have no sympathy for him.
Yeah, absolutely 100%. Being in the Navy, I know that. Also, we had a same incident coming out of Hong Kong. Going back to Vietnam, we had a freighter, cargo freighter, bully us off of our course. And he was headed right towards us. I'll never forget it. And we signaled him, we radioed him, and we put air horns on him. And he didn't get out of the way. I mean, they didn't care. They were going to ram us. The captain back then, this was 1969, put us at general quarters and put all the guns, which were 9 8-inchers, on the freighter. And I'll tell you, Dr. Savage, it was a sight to see. This freighter just steered clear of us instantly.
Wait, hold on now. So the captain didn't back off. He aimed his guns at the freighter. How did the freighter captain see the guns coming at him?
Well, it was very close. We were coming out of Hong Kong on R&R. We were going back to Vietnam to the gun line. It was 1969 at the tent offensive.
No, but what I'm saying is that how do you know the captain would have seen those guns coming at him on the freighter?
Well, our captain put all the guns, aligned all the guns on the ship.
Yeah, but what if the freighter captain didn't see those guns turned toward him? He would have rammed the ship.
Well, obviously.
All right, but at least you had a ballsy captain who was willing to fight rather than flight. I thank you for that. Okay, the fact of the matter is that the captain of our ship, the Fitzgerald, court-martial. It's his responsibility. No sympathy. Back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Well, do you wanna dance and hold my hand? Tell me I'm the love man, oh baby. Do you wanna dance? Well, do you wanna
Bah humbug. Bah humbug. Johnny Depp apologizes for Trump assassination joke. That's the headline on Drudge. Oh, the backlash finally. Mr. Cool, the tough guy. Why do you people go to the movies for these people? Why do you go see anything, even on TV? I told you. I try to scan past all those who showed themselves for what they are during the election. Sometimes I slip. I told you that. I stopped watching any replay with Robert De Niro. I made a mistake in L.A. At home, I watched one of his movies called The Comedian. I did it because I wanted to see that particular movie. Okay, it was a piece of garbage. But generally now I don't watch any movies with those who show themselves to be radical leftists and anti-American, in my opinion. Johnny Depp is on that list now. I used to love him, this guy. I thought he was a great actor. And I used to separate, by the way, the artist from their politics. No more. No more. I mean, Hitler was a good watercolorist, by the way. Can you separate his politics from his art? Oh, yeah, Hitler was a very good watercolorist. I know the critics said he was too architectural and too two-dimensional. I wish I could be as good a watercolorist as Hitler was. But I'm making a bigger point. Just because I liked his watercolors didn't mean that I didn't see him for the monster that he was. The same with Johnny Depp and the others. Don't go to their movies. Don't watch the replays. No matter how much you're bombarded by the psychos from Hollywood and those who run the PR agencies, just say no. You have the power. And there's more to come. More, and more. It's endless.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
Oh, little girl of mine. You sure look.
All right, hour number 2. If you just joined us, I guess you missed a lot. I'm not going to summarize it because you came in late to class. Don't blame me. So this is not the biggest story, but it's an interesting one. It's a cultural story. Johnny Dipso. Johnny Depp is not his real name anyway, but Johnny Dipso, I gave him another made-up stage name. Johnny Dipso is now apologizing for the Trump assassination joke after both the White House and Donald Trump Jr. condemned the remark by this stoner. So let's listen to the remark. Again, it's not the biggest story of the day, but it shows you the tide is turning. I'm telling you right now, for this Dipso to make the crack, first of all, he got booed and cheered at the same time. The country doesn't want to hear this anymore. All this Trump attacking, the Trump hatred has come to a halt. The Russia thing is also coming to an end. It's over. The people have had enough of this crap. And I can tell you right now, by Johnny Depp apologizing, it means the guys, who run Hollywood stepped in and said, you better do something quick because your career is going to be finished. The next thing you know, you'll be looking like Robert De Niro doing comedy movies. Like meet the ignoramus parents or something. So let's hear the joke that got Johnny Dipso in trouble on the Savage Nation.
I think he needs help. And, I don't know. A lot of wonderful dark places he could go. It's just a question. I'm not insinuating anything. By the way, this is going to be in the press. It'll be horrible. But I like that you're all a part of it. When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
Oh, they're happy. And really, I wonder if someone had said that about the savior of humanity, the last president, if you would have heard the same reaction. Johnny Depp apologizes for Trump assassination joke. So the PR guy, you know what he must look like in Hollywood, shaved head, because his hair fell out, so they shave off the hair, they leave a fuzz to make it look like they're not bald. All right, bald is everyone gets bald. So what? It's the way of all flesh. I could just tell you what the PR agent looks like in Hollywood. That's what I was trying to say. Emaciated, thin, gluten-free. He leads a gluten-free life, but he's a total. Don't get me started on what he does between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m. But in the morning, clean shirt, clean tie, clean outfit. So he went to Depp and said, you better do something quick. So today, Dipso just says, I apologize for the bad joke I attempted last night in poor taste about President Trump. Johnny Dipso said in a statement to People magazine. Johnny Dipso goes on and said, it did not come out as intended, and I intended no malice. I was only trying to amuse, not to harm anyone. So that was written by some PR hack in Hollywood, no doubt. And now, suddenly the brave actor can go back to his acting. He says, when was the last time an actor assassinated a president? Dipso began. I want to clarify, I'm not an actor. I lie for a living. However, it has been a while. Maybe it's about time. Not funny, Johnny. Especially a guy who plays tough guys. He was in Blow. He played a drug dealer. Then he was in another movie where he played a great heroic undercover agent. Piscopo, Joe Piscopo, a real DEA agent, not this punk drug addict, so far as we know, uses drugs. Isn't he famous for it? Didn't he also play Hunter Thompson in the movie like he was stoned the whole movie? Remember that one? Big deal. I turned that one off. But I liked him when he played, the undercover agent. I forget the name of that movie. But again, he always plays these steely hard men. But look what really is underneath the surface. Don't you know it's all fake? Don't you know that all of these guys who play American roles hate America, by and large, almost every one of them? Who was that guy who has been in so many great... He's a fabulous actor, don't get me wrong. But I said in the last hour, Hitler was a fine watercolorist. That didn't mean I accepted his politics. Okay? It's the same thing here. I hate their politics. Now I hate their acting. They can take their art and you know what they can do with it, don't you? That other one, he always plays American heroes. He was in Saving Private Ryan. He's more famous than Vipso. Plays all these leading roles. Huh? Damon. No. There's one other. I don't know. Yeah, they're all the same. They're all cut from the same Hershey bar. Why are all of these guys anti-American? Can anyone explain it to me? That's something I cannot figure out. But okay, it sells. It's sold. It sold movies. And they knew in order to survive, because of the deviants who run Hollywood, they had to appease them. So even if they don't have any opinions, what do you think they really know? You got to understand something about actors. They're marionettes. Somebody else tells them what to do, what to say, how to look, how to dress. They're marionettes. They're usually people without personalities of their own. That's why they're so screwed up. They have no firm sense of who they are, so they can play anybody. In fact, the more malleable they are, the more crazy they are usually. Okay, so now we know what that's about. Nevertheless, who was the guy I'm thinking about? Who was the guy who was in Saving Private Ryan? Come on, look it up for God's sakes. You'll find it who it was. Then the one with the FedEx plane crashed. He was on the beach. He always plays American heroes and American patriots, but he's a well-known Tom Hanks, an American basher. Fabulous actor, very believable. The guy next door. You want to believe everything he says. But why does he have the politics that are that of Bernie Sanders? Do they think they would do well under a socialist government? How well would they do living in a socialist country? Ask Tom Hanks if he's like to live in South America. Ask Tom Hanks how well he would do in Venezuela for 5 minutes. See if he'd make a dime in a government-controlled theater. It's unbelievable how stupid and shallow these people are. But you all went to school with that artsy type. It doesn't mean that they're bad people, but they're empty. They're empty. So they ape whatever is popular in order to get along in Hollywood. You won't work in this town unless you agree with the most extremist element of the left-wingers. So that's how they come out that way. Do they really believe it? And if they do believe it, you should go to their movies? That's all. What's Johnny Depp? He's calling the show, or you're calling about him? I don't want to talk about Johnny Depp anymore. I'm not interested in Johnny Depp. I said already. Johnny Dipso. Let that stick to him like Velcro. Anytime you hear Johnny Depp, think Johnny Dipso. Anytime you hear the word Depp, think dip. Dipso, dipstick, or something even worse. If I was off the air, it wouldn't be dipstick. Close, but not exactly that. That's all. What a country we're living in. And I also raised out the ship thing last hour, the Chaldeans being kicked out. Sorry, I didn't even eat now getting clamped from the whole show already. Has this been a long week or what? Feels like a long week to me. What's in the air? The weather, I think. It was hot out here for 3 days. You could die. It was like, oh, God. Living behind air conditioning is de-enervating. It's horrible. Now it's cold. I'm wearing an overcoat in the studio. Then the dog is coughing. I don't know. And, no matter what we do, like a wheeze. He jumps off the bed. Sounds like, a really old great-grandfather. So that's really bothering because it's gotten worse. 2 visits to the doctor yesterday. Now, tomorrow I have to take him 9 a.m. to a vet. Great vet for an x-ray now. It's awful. I don't want to go through this again. The last one was bad enough, Snowy in the garden, with the light going out of her eye, with me touching her and singing to her. She died. No, I don't want to go through it again. Okay. Oh, I'll stop it because I don't want to go through it again. They're always a harbinger of some human being. That's the part that bothered me. Before Snowy died, Snowy got very sick, my last dog, the Sheltie. I gave her to a farm, people with a farm at 11. They kept her alive another 2 years because they put her on a normal diet. They didn't feed her like I did. I killed her by overfeeding her. I can't help it. They look at you. So what I'm eating, I give them. So she got fat. So they put her on a strict diet. She lived another 2 years. Then they called and they said, look, we've done all we can. The vets have done all they can. You have to come see her. It's the last day. Oh, God, going and seeing her on the grass in the sun with the light going out of her eye. I can't do this. I don't want to do this again. But what choice do I have? And I'm going to get another dog? No, that's it. No more. I'm never going through this again. I can't take it. I've had dogs since I'm a kid. I'm a dog lover, like I'm a boat lover. But you know what? One day I woke up and stopped boating. I didn't have the time nor the inclination to be alone on the bay anymore. That's it for dogs. Anyway, that's my whole thing. But you know, it's a law of the jungle anyway, when you think about it. I watch like YouTube things once in a while. So you see the one today of a seal fighting an octopus. You say, wow, a seal? Yeah, seals kill things. That's how they live. I mean, the seal, the innocent seal, the baby seal. They're predators. They kill fish, they kill octopus, big seals like big octopi, and they fight to the death. And usually the octopus wins. Usually the seal wins. And it's brutal to watch lions hunting water buffalo and tearing the entrails out through the anus. But I watch these things because it reminds me what life is all about. We may live in a bubble of our humanity and a bubble of our civility and our civil society, but all the time we see the predators out there. Either we are importing them, and they come here like the jackals that they are, under the guise of religious freedom, and they tear us apart. They tear our entrails out with their pipe bombs or their suicide vests. And we're supposed to sit here because the schmuck politicians tell us that we're racist because we want to live. They can go you nowhere. I'm sick and tired of cowards and psychopaths and drug addicts telling me I shouldn't survive. No more jackals brought into America with tattoos up to their eyebrows. No more teardrops of death on the eyebrows. Thank God Trump is throwing them out of the country. The world is at war, number one. For over 1,000 years, those practitioners of that religion have been at war with their own people and the whole world to either convert them or kill them or both. Why would you want to bring them into this country when the people are like sheep to the slaughter? It's a nation of sheep, and the only ones who could stand up to them are vilified by the vermin in the media who hide behind bodyguards and steel doors. Other than that, I have nothing to say about dogs who are dying.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. This is so great. Let her roll. Now the horn comes in. Beautiful stuff. I don't know what year this was. 59? That was music. Now you rub the crotch and say kill somebody and you make $18 million a second. You got like rings in your nose, and jewels on your ears, diamonds on your teeth. It's a new country. Freighter was on autopilot when it hit U.S. destroyer. U.S. Fitzgerald did not detect container ship. Military chiefs want 6-month hold on trans troops. Oh, my. How anti-gay can you get? You mean the men who actually have to send men into war to die? They want a transgender enlistment hold? What is wrong with these evil men who Trump appointed? Why don't we have more transgender people in the military? After all, isn't the military supposed to be a social experiment? Isn't that a place to go to get surgery for free? And walk around in a nice suit that the government pays for? Do you have any idea how sick Obama was that he did this on purpose? That had nothing to do with compassion. It was meant to, let us say, de-testosterone the military? Do you understand the mentality of the sorority that this country was being ruled by for 8 horrible years? What the sorority did to everything they touched? All right, it's Friday. Don't get excited, right? Carter gave service until July 1 to develop policy to allow people already identifying as transgender to renew them and have been stable and identified genders for 18 months. How could that increase the readiness of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps to bring in transgenders? Can you explain it to me? I mean, are they better troops? Let me ask you that. They're better, let's say, jumping out of an airplane with an 80-pound pack? They're, let's say, better in field battle situations? They're the best and the brightest? Is that what Obama thought? Already there are as many as 250 service members in the process of transitioning to their preferred genders and who have been approved to formally change gender. Now, do you have any idea what this costs the taxpayer? Do you understand that these people will never be ready for combat? Never. Do you know how many years it takes to make this happen and how much money it costs with hormones and whatnot? What kind of sickness can this be? This is not bashing transgendered. The military is different than the University of California at Berkeley. This is what Obama did, and it was not about compassion. Any more was bringing children in from Honduras with Zika. That was, again, not about compassion. Okay, you know, sometimes I feel that I know many of you understand what I'm saying, and I know most of you who listen to me do, but I think that I'm talking to a stone wall when it comes to the sickos of Hollywood, the mind-distorted people in the media, but I do it anyway. I try to make sense out of insanity, but you know their minds are made up and you can't confuse them with the facts. There's no way. They're not going to change their mind. This is all about a social agenda. It's a steamroller, and they don't want the steamroller going in reverse. It's that simple, whether it's this or any other issue. So no matter what you say to them, they're not going to listen. Let's take a caller on another topic. Amber on KSFO, line 3, fire away. 30 seconds or less. What's your point?
Hey, Dr. Savage, I just want to tell you that this entire week you just killed it. I'm still excited from last Friday when you told your 2 personal stories. It got me through the whole weekend. I get anxious when you're not...
Oh, so today I did when I was a 13-year-old pharmacist's assistant, and I talked about how I learned the words ad libitum. I don't know what the stories were from last Friday. What were that got you through the week?
Over at the sewer plant.
Oh, Love by the Sewer Plant in the Nympho in Alley Pond Park.
It got me through the whole weekend.
Why? Those are tragic stories in a way.
It was more the spirituality of it all, and then you talked about Father's Day, the sociopaths this week.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm trying to introduce more of my personal nature into the show, because anybody can read news stories in their book. You know, it's a little static after a while. That's all. I'll be back. I'm going to give you some personal stories, that's all.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Here in California, mainly San Francisco, the heat wave has ended, but the crime wave continues. Yep, the crime wave continues. A man robbed in Berkeley on Grizzly Peak. Second such incident in that location. The criminals are out of control because the police have been hamstrung by the wonderful, wonderful leaders in the backyard of Nancy Pelosi. They are empowered to attack with impunity, because they know that the crimes will not be followed up because the police are intimidated. This is a direct result of 8 years of attacks on police by Obama and Eric Holder. Can you believe that? That's why I'm telling you I got to turn away from it. So for your listening pleasure, I am going to read you some childhood stories from my book, Psychological Nudity, published in 2008. And it's not to sell you a book. They're out of print. Just to bring you up to speed. How about story number 1, The Electric Blue Saddle. Wait, let me read the exact title. The Electric blue saddle-stitched pants. Do you know that any one of the titles of my book would make for a movie? The Fly and the Tuna. Tough high school geometry teacher. All right, that wouldn't be a title. Happy and Sad Cufflinks. Woodchuck Bill. These are repertoire. This is my repertoire. Let me read you that one. Not Woodchuck Bill. I'm bored of that. Happy and Sad Cufflinks. I think that's me today anyway. I read years ago when I got nervous when I read Freud when I was 15. When he wrote that our personalities are formed by the time we're 5, I said, I'm cursed. I'm going to be like this forever? It's like an eternity. I'm never going to change. No, you never change. You're never going to. So Happy and Sad Cufflinks. So I write this. No question, if I was a kid in school today, let's say in the 6th grade, they'd put me on every mind-controlling drug imaginable. The mean-faced, clipped-haired women would say, that little savage, he has shining eyes, and he talks too much. Put him on Ritalin. Put him on Prozac. Put him on Adderall. Put him in a straitjacket. He shows all the classic signs of being a boy. We must kill it, kill it, kill it, crush it. I believe most mothers don't even know what their poor boys go through in school. When I was a young boy, my mother bought me a pair of cufflinks. They were a set of the thespian masks. You know, one was a sad face and one was a happy face. I loved those cufflinks. I'd look at them when I was bored in class. On my right cuff, I had the happy face. On the left cuff, I had the sad face. Some days, I'd switch them around and put the happy face on the left sleeve and the sad face on the right sleeve. I'm sorry, I'm enjoying it. See, I knew I could cheer myself up. Many days, I was so bored I didn't know what to do. I'd look at these cufflinks for hours in the classroom while the teacher was going on and on about George Washington and the river. I was so bored I spaced out. I learned that George crossed the river. He saved the country in Trenton. He overthrew the British. I got that the first week of kindergarten. They're still teaching it to me in the 4th grade. In the 5th grade, I learned what a peninsula was. In the 6th grade, it took them a year to teach me what an island was. I couldn't take it. So I stared at the cufflinks, the happy face, the sad face, the sad face, the happy face. Then I got bored with the cufflinks. I started pulling hair out of the skin of my arms. Today, they would have put me on Ritalin or put me in a nut house. They'd call my lack of attention a disease. It was called boredom. I inflicted pain on myself rather than listen to the teacher bore me one more second. Rather than improve the curriculum, teachers today might say, oh, your son has something wrong with him, Mrs. Savage. We found out that he looks at cufflinks instead of listening to the teacher talk about how evil America is and why white males need to be put in the pillory. He's pulling hair out of his arm, and we'd suggest you put him on a moderate dose, just a moderate dose of Ritalin on the first date. That's for starters. Soon the teacher might say, let's put him on, whatever the drug of choice is. Now, I'd be the first to admit that teaching is a tough profession. Keeping the lesson engaging day after day takes everything out of you. As long as I live, I'll never forget the day I first walked into a classroom as a young teacher. Maybe I'll write a book about it one day. You know, something for the students. I'd call it The Savage Guide to Surviving Junior High School. Anyway, back then, I didn't look much older than the students. I had graduated high school at 16, which means I, in turn, graduated college very young. Frankly, I decided to grow a goatee to look older than the junior high school kids in my class. I remember when I raised my foot to walk over the curb the very first day I was going to teach, to step into that junior high school, and my foot froze up. I actually stopped mid-stride. My foot froze before it touched the step. Well, anyway, the students were racing past me to get to class, and I was standing there as stiff as a statue. I had no idea I had a fear of teaching, but I did. If you think teaching is an easy job, try it someday. It is probably one of the toughest jobs on earth if you do it right. So when I'm critical about the teaching profession and the teachers union, don't get me wrong, I fully recognize it's a tough drill. At the same time, there's no excuse for boring students to death. If an uneducated man like Woodchuck Bill could teach me about life, then surely I should be able to do the same with my college degree. At least that was my view. See, they were short and sweet. They were well written. They were actually classical stories in some. One-Armed Frank is a good one. Can I tell you One-Armed Frank? Play me some jazz music, maybe some Coltrane for me to do with the One-Armed Frank. Then I swear I'll go back to the boring news. I may even do Louie and His Crazed Monkey today on this Friday, just to entertain you. Yeah. Here you go, One-Armed Frank. Give me a minute, though, to cover. Go back behind the stage now on the Savage Nation. Take a drink of water. Splash some water in my eyes. Rub my eyes. rub my hands, slap my ears. And here we go, One-Arm Frank. Did I ever tell you about One-Arm Frank? My father knew a guy with one arm. I don't know how the guy became one arm, but you didn't know a lot of people with one arm in those days. Even today, I guess you don't know one-arm people because they have fake arms. He had the arms sewn up in a suit. Nobody hid reality in those days. Today it's like, oh, yeah, he's normal. He's just like us. In those days, it was One-Arm Frank. Today it's like, oh, he's better than all. Man, he's special. Like if you have one arm, you're better than a guy with two arms today. You know what I mean? If you have no arms and no legs, you're Superman in the politically correct world. Now, I'm not trying to degrade people who lost their arms and legs in war or an accident. I'm making a broader point. In those days, if you were missing an arm, that's what you were named. Whatever your anomaly was, that was your name. It made it easier for the average person to remember everybody. It was sort of a Damon Runyon play. So, One-Arm Frank was a very sweet guy, but he had sick breath. Now, I want to tell you there are bad breaths, and then there are very bad breaths. Then there are medicinal breaths. This one had to be solved with a medicine that hasn't been invented yet. I remember one winter my old man was dropping Frank off at his home. Frank was in the passenger seat, and I sat in the back seat. It was minus 4 degrees out in New York, but we had to ride all the way from Manhattan out to Brooklyn with the windows open. Did you ever meet a person like this? Whenever he spoke, the car filled with a nauseous fume. Are we going past the Trun's meat factory, I asked. No, we're not in Williamsburg. Did we run over a small furry creature that got caught in the muffler, and the smell shot up through the floorboards? No. Did I step on something? You look at your shoes. No, it's Frank talking. That's my One-Arm Frank story. Some more Coltrane, please. It's short and sweet. Think of it as a jazz tune. Oh, I hear a car arriving here at the studio. It means my pinworm sushi has arrived. Killing mice in the laboratory. That's a great story. Many of you don't know I left science and went to another field because I wouldn't kill mice anymore. I should tell you that story, but maybe you're bored already and want me to go back to Democrats and Republicans. Why them Dems? I got to tell you, if those Dems only did... Why, they're horrible. It's them Repubs that are no good, but I hate them and love them, and therefore I'm on the radio telling you about them. It's Dems, Republicans, Republicans, Dems, Dems, Republican. No, can't do it, no, can do.
Millionaires and billionaires.
Yeah, millionaires and billionaires. Oh, I got the death of pets in here. When was this written? Hold it. I'm going to do one more. Let's have some Italian music. I'm going to read you When Pasta Was Spaghetti for your entertainment. This is a great, great poem that I wrote way back in my archives. It was written August 1985, written in a lightning storm at 40,000 feet over Cheyenne, Wyoming. When I thought the plane was going to crash, I had another drink, and I wrote When Pasta Was Spaghetti. So you liberals get ready to sneer, and you sane people get ready to enjoy it because it's a wonderful poem. Try to imagine it. Ready? Here we go. The hairy forearms of New York serve you your coffee with a turning gesture, an offering that says, drink, eat, enjoy. The wiry Italian in Vincent's Clam Bar, the one behind the greased-over register. The young kid connected, the one who receives his deference from the spaghetti cook, older than his gangster father. The spaghetti cook who looks like an old-fashioned doctor from the Bronx with clipped mustache. He actually pulls some long noodles out of the pot and eats them as they cook, looking to the grimy ceiling for his tender answer. Well, I used to call it spaghetti. Now it's pasta at $20 a plate. The smoky windows of Romeo's Spaghetti now offer radios and knickknacks. It was only 50 cents a plate then. In neon letters that you couldn't miss even through a fogged-over window on a cold winter's eve, there was life. Marinara sauce that stuck to the... Wait, marinara sauce that stuck to the seat? No, that's wrong. Marinara sauce that tasted of the sea. Noodles as long as your young arm. Meatballs as fluffy as your dreams of them. Bread on the table that you'd eat against your parents' admonition that would... The meal is coming, don't eat the bread. And men, some burly, with black hairy forearms, whose smiles scared you, and little skinny guys with the look of murder on their faces, and people who slurped their spaghetti straight to their mouths from the plate, one motion like Chinese shoveling rice at mouth with clicking sticks. That was gusto before it became a beer ad. That was taste before it became a synonym for fashion. That was spaghetti before it became pasta. Pagliaccio the Clown. Great. Perfect. Robert, you know me like a book. I'm in a really weird maudlin mood today. What's wrong with me? The dog, I think. The dog. All right, I'll be back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Must be a kind
I love this song.
of blind love.
59, Plymouth Fury. I know you heard it before. So what? You hear it again. God, I'm eating this pinworm sushi that just arrived. Yeah, but I'm eating the wasabi. It is so amazing. It's so energizing. One of those guys that are like skinny and they like fight on Bataan forever, like a little rice. You know, you give a guy wasabi and rice, he'll fight to the death just to get out of it. He'd rather be killed than live on that. He figures when he gets through, he can go to like Disneyland and build a Toyota motor car company when it's all over after the atomic bomb. That's good. That was funny. I don't know, is anyone following this? I don't care anymore. I'm eating on air. I really don't care. I'm not going to talk about George Washington and Abe Lincoln. Or Johnny Dipso, or the Navy thing. I did it already. You want another childhood story? You got to call the show and tell me what you want. It's a call-in show. That's so good. Jimmy on WABC, line 3. What's on your mind, Jimmy?
Oh, I just had to get through to you. I'm so glad I finally got to speak to you. My mother put me on to you a few years back. May she rest in peace. And when you started mentioning the Trunz factory in Williamsburg and Greenpoint, by the way, they just redid the Kosciuszko Bridge. I'm sure you went over that a few times.
Oh, my God. Every time I went in with my father.
Yeah, what a horror show. And that Trunz factory, when you passed by, you didn't know if you were smelling that or the Newtown Creek.
Am I telling you the truth? That was a slaughterhouse for pigs.
For the nation to know. And why I called...
Nobody could believe the smell that came out of that meat factory. You could smell it like a yellow smell that went on for miles. And that's why I was talking about one-armed Frank with the halitosis. So what's on your mind?
Well, I just want to... Well, I'm a big Trump guy. But many times I said, if I ever get through to you, the one thing I would have to say to you, because my mother, rest in peace, was the one that put me on to you, I know...
God rest her soul, yeah?
You would never touch anything from a fan or anything edible. But I promise you that if you ever had my mother's cooking meatballs, you'd be coming back to New York at least 3 or 4 times a year just to visit her.
I can believe it. How long did she live?
Oh, she was 89 when she passed away. She passed away.
Oh, my mother went to 88. My mother never drank. My mother never smoked. She really rarely ever drank. And I'll bet you this is a similar story to you. Did your father predate her in passing?
Say that again?
Did your father pass away before your mother?
Yes, he did, 20 years before. But she had...
And did she ever remarry?
No, she stayed single.
Thank you. Thank you. That's the way my mother was. She wasn't interested in starting all over again.
No, they lived for their children, and that's why the world was a better place.
Well, we were talking about values in the changing world. Today, it's another story. Today, the man dies at 75. She puts on a miniskirt and goes out to a club.
Exactly, and they're looking to turn the page. But,
Turn the page. Turn the page. That's a good phrase.
They still have those values.
No, I understand. You can't blame people for wanting to go on and wanting to live, though, on the other hand. I mean, truthfully. But, so let me... Where did you grow up? In Brooklyn?
Greenpoint, Williamsburg, right? I could have walked. We used to walk past the Trunz building. They used to have a Santa Claus and the reindeer up on the top of the factory.
And what line of work are you in?
I'm a retired correction officer.
Ah, you sound like a tough guy.
Well, I was a Rikers Island graduate.
I read that de Blasio wants to take Rikers Island and turn it into a country club. Did you see that in the New York Daily News or the Post today?
About for the last since he's mentioned that.
Why does he want to turn it into a college dorm? What's the point of that?
No, but Rikers Island is one of the few things that New York City has ever gotten right. and that's the one thing he wants to undo.
Well, why was it right? Even though it was a very mean place, very tough to survive in, why would you say it was right?
Well, because it was isolated from all the communities. He wants to put a jail back in every neighborhood.
Oh, so they can ply their trade at night.
Rikers Island has one access point, one bridge in, one bridge out, and it's nothing but prison.
There was a very small little received called Welcome to New York with Gerard Depardieu, set in Rikers Island. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, I didn't.
Oh, my God. I think it was filmed in Rikers Island. Welcome to New York, one of the most stirring movies about what happens when this rich guy gets thrown into Rikers and he has no protection whatsoever. Hey, thank you, my friend. I'm selling you a copy of Trump's War. Take it back to Greenpoint, whatever. Display it proudly. This is the Savage Nation. Open mic to Mike. 855-407-282. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE. 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, the Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
I've got a castle. A castle in the sky.
Built for you, dear, just for you and I. Castle in the sky.
Now listen to the lyrics. Now compare the lyrics of rock and roll, idealizing a relationship, idealizing romance, idealizing love, idealizing woman, to the lyrics of today. We were talking yesterday about the collapse of our culture, remember? That was yesterday's show. We were talking about, the theme of my show is borders, language, and culture. So I opened yesterday's show with blues music, and I said blues music is authentic American music. And then the left introduced the vile, unpoetic hatred of rap. The vile, unpoetic hatred that is found in rap music. And I asked you what part of the cultural meltdown affects you the most. And I asked you, is it the open pornography everywhere? Is it the legalization of marijuana? The drugging of our children? The profanity on the airwaves and in the movies? The violence displayed by Katzenberg, Hatzenberg, and Matzenberg in film? Is it the attack on Christianity? So you take a song like that, Castle in the Sky, it's a great example. How we've gone from lyrics of beauty, poetic beauty, to what we have today. Saying, okay, what are you complaining about it? I'm not complaining about it. It was just a social observation. So this morning, I was reading about, you want to make it all political for a minute, the Dems have no national message. They still haven't figured out that the reason Trump won is because he picked up our message of nationalism in many different forms. He had a message. He listened to talk radio for years. He was on this show repeatedly, other shows repeatedly. This show was the number one reason he was elected. Everybody knows that. So now he's going back to the basics of why he was elected. And what the other side has are issues that nobody identifies with except a very small and narrow band, university people, not bread and butter issues. It's identity politics, it's race, it's sex, it's morality, it's ethnicity, it's class warfare. It's abortion, it's sanctuary cities, it's Black Lives Matter, it's how racist cops are, it's La Raza, it's about what bathroom you should use, it's about ripping down Confederate statues, it's about same-sex marriage, it's about taking the names off streets of American heroes and bridges and stuff. It is the involvement of the United States of America. That's the agenda of the Democrats under Nancy Pelosi. It's forgiving student loan debt. It's punishing people on Wall Street. It's bailing out countries and nations like Puerto Rico. is giving back kids the tuition that they paid. Now, what kind of message is that? Where does that lead? It leads to what you have in Venezuela, where people are fighting over a zoo animal for lunch. They have to kill animals in a zoo to eat down there. That's what socialism leads to. But you cannot tell that to the hardcore anarchist, communists, and college professors who live on tenure. So all I can do is try to educate and illuminate, and that's why I'm doing something else today, which is not political. I'm doing Savage Radio stories. So the electric blue saddle stitch pants I didn't do. I did happy and sad cufflinks. What else did I do? The breath. One-arm Frank. Oh, here's a popular one. Dead Man's Pants. It's summertime. I'm doing a summer show. In the summer, I typically tell stories more than I do politics, unless the politics blow up in our face. Now, here's a good one, though. It's a little... Here, wait, Nutty Friend Had Crazy Mother. I think he's still living, by the way. Yeah, that's a shorty. Coney Island Wax Figures. Nutty Friend Had Crazy Mother. Sam the Butcher. Dead Man's Pants? I don't know. That's too long. I'll give you the gist of Dead Man's Pants. It's that I was wearing hand-me-down clothing as a kid, by and large. My father owned a secondhand store, and he would buy stuff at auction or buy a whole so-called estate from a widow. Let's say a guy died. And he'd take all the stuff for resale. He'd take a closer look at the stuff that was in there. And sometimes he got a suit. So if the suit was a good one, like a Hart, Shafter, and Marks from a dead man, what's he going to do, toss it in the garbage like they do today? They wouldn't even take it home. In those days, it wasn't in him to throw out a good worsted fabric. Instead, he brought home the pants to me. I remember my father calling me to the bedroom and he showed them to me like the head tailor at Nordstrom's department store, and he'd say, "Now, Michael, get a good look at this fabric. I wanted to vomit. I got a migraine because I knew what was coming. Take a look at the quality of this fabric." He's working me like a salesman. He's unrolling the pants on the bed. I can see it to this day. He unrolls it like he's selling me a bolt of hand-woven cloth. He would say, "You can't get fabric like this anymore." I wanted to say, "Of course not, Dad. They only sell stuff like that for men who died." You know, it was like special clothing for the undertaker. Even if I had said something that wouldn't have changed anything, he'd go downtown and the pants would come back fit for me. You know, shortened without the legs taken improperly or the crotch or the seat. They ended up baggy like an Abbott and Costello pair of pants. Even if they had fit me properly, there was something repugnant about the whole idea about wearing dead man's pants. Like I said, I knew how to make do with whatever was at hand. There's an old saying, the man with no shoes complains until he meets the man with no feet. The fact that I didn't have much more than a place to sleep in my first little apartment after college was okay with me. At least I wasn't wearing dead man's pants. Well, little did I know that one day those awful pants would serve as a metaphor for the shift in my political orientation. You might find it interesting that I wasn't always an independent conservative. I was raised in a Democrat, blue-collar home. My dad was a Democrat. My mom was a Democrat. Most of my relatives all voted Democrats and still do. To an immigrant family whose parents came of age during the Great Depression, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the great white savior. Aside from being the only U.S. president reelected to office 3 times, he gained lasting political mileage with the relief that his New Deal offered. As you might expect then, my father used to tell me, "Michael, all I know is this. The Democrats are for the little guy and the Republicans are for big business." In a way, his attempt to sell me on the political leanings of the Democratic Party was no different than his sales job with the dead man's pants. He was selling me a failed ideology that should have been buried long ago. See, that? I'll end it at that. That's a nice story with a little political overtone. You can read it yourself if you bought it years ago. Wasn't a big seller. But let's see. Remember, Savage's Mother Called while the show was on. Fat Al's Tuna's cute. Love by the Sewer Plant we did last Friday. Well, this is our Friday reading today on the Savage Nation. I think we're going to take a quick break, and when I come back, I'm going to tell you the story of Fat Al's Tuna when I was 17 and working as a busboy at Shanks Paramount Hotel up in the Catskill Mountains in New York. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Rock and Roll Friday. Shaboom on the Savage Nation. Oh, that pinworm sushi and the wasabi brought me back to life, along with a diet soda, water. Play a little music. Come on, it's Rock and Roll Friday. I don't know what he's singing about, Shaboom. 855-407-2882 phone number. I want to just say one word on a Friday because it's the beginning of the sundown in the East Coast soon, which religious Jews go into the Sabbath. They go and worship. They welcome the Sabbath bride. They get closer to God. On Sunday, the Christian people do. On Saturday, the Muslim people do. It's a big deal, the Sabbath. And I just want to say one paragraph that you have to know. There's like a little sermon thing, a one paragraph, and then I'll take your calls. I believe in God, that's all. How can you believe in nothingness? How is it possible to believe in nothingness? How can something come from nothing? It's a violation of all the laws of physics. Something cannot come from nothing. It violates physical science, biological science, theological science. It violates all the laws of reason. It violates all the laws of non-reason. So what I'm getting at is, how can you believe in nothingness? And now on to the callers on the Savage Nation. KSFO, Heidi, line 1. Go ahead, please. What's on your mind?
Hi, Dr. Savage. Love your show and your bumper music, by the way.
Thank you.
To share, I came back from a 2-week trip back east. I took my 17-year-old twin boys, my husband and I, on a U.S. history tour. Went to Washington, D.C., Williamsburg, Colonial, Williamsburg, Monticello, and New Orleans. I just want to say, getting out of the Bay Area, and I'm a third-generation San Franciscan, was rather refreshing to meet some real people out there, out in the country.
Is this your first trip out of the Bay to the East Coast?
No, I've been there before, but with all the Trump hilarious craziness and all that stuff.
The Bay Area is an island unto itself of insane people. It's an insane asylum.
Absolutely, but it was refreshing. I met so many nice people out in the countryside of Virginia.
Yeah, these are violent people disguised as good liberals, and the violence is going to come to an end as sure as I am sitting here.
Yeah.
If they keep it up with the masks and the scarves, all the professors who, act tough at night with the scarves and then hitting people, it ends very badly for them. It ends with the nation cracking down. That's all I can say. They're going to face a sea of nightsticks one day, and they're not going to like the results, and their lawyers will wind up in jail with them.
My boys saw another part of America, and we really like it. They loved it a lot. It was a good history lesson.
So wait, are you a listener to this show in general or just today because of my New York accent?
Oh, no, I listen to you all the time when I can in the car coming back and forth from work. But what you were talking about earlier today about how Trump keeps winning and why is it that nobody seems to get it, about why Trump won, it's just stuck here.
Yeah, he had an agenda. The agenda is the one I've been professing on this program ever since I began in 1994. Affirm borders, language, and culture. The Democrats have absolutely no agenda other than, let us say, hatred, anger, race warfare, issues of sexuality, economic warfare, resentment, hostility, nothing else. There's nothing positive. I'm sending you a copy of Trump's War. Thank you very much for calling the Savage Nation. Maybe I should have gone back east. I don't want to go back east. That's such a West Coast phrase. I'm going back east. It's like a gold miner. What do you mean back? I don't like the whole thing of back east. That's what they say on the West Coast. We're going back east. Those of us who are from the East Coast who live out here say we're going east, not back east. It's an interesting thing. There's another interesting set of words that have been running through my mind lately, which is, I used to laugh at old guys who would say, thanks God. So the guy that I went to the hospital and I survived the operation, thanks God. So I'd laugh inside. He doesn't know how to say thank God. But then I realized they were right all along. Think about it. He's saying, thanks God. If you say thank God, you're actually making a command. So like, I went to the hospital, survived the operation, thank God. Are you telling someone to thank God? The correct thing to say is, thanks God. It's like, God, thanks. See? I never understood that. I thought old guys didn't know how to say thank God. They were saying, thanks God. They were correct. I was wrong. I was just thinking about how words, the power of words. In my own way, I'm saying that right now. I guess I moved away from that off and on like Mother Teresa with that whole thing, believing, not believing, in, out, firmly believing, 100% believing, then not believing, then I'm an atheist in a way. I can't believe in anything. I just have no feelings for the universe. And then when I get in those states, I must tell you, I lose my energy. I'm a guy who is attached to the higher power. And when I am reattached to the higher power, I'm much stronger. I'm almost, just put it that way, I'm much stronger, not only on my radio show, but in life. I can feel it. There's a force around me, a protection of angels, whatever you want to say, however you believe it. And when I lose my faith in God and the hereafter, I could feel my energy going. It's as though I'm Samson who's had his hair cut off. See, a religious man once said to me, I was very cynical, and I said to him, if God is so all-powerful, why does he need man to pray to him? And he was a very nice man, and he said, God doesn't need man to pray to him. Man needs to pray to God, meaning we have an inherent need to basically bow down and give ourselves over to a higher power. Otherwise, we wind up like Johnny Dipso. Or otherwise, we wind up like that stoner on HBO who thinks he's so smart. None of them have any faith in anything. All they do is use drugs to fill up their emptiness, drugs or sex or whatever, and you can hear it in everything they do. The whole left wing is filled with hatred because they're empty. That's my opinion. And, that brings us back. I don't want to get overly preachy, even though I can be very preachy, and maybe I should get more preachy. It's only a faith in God that is going to save America, I'll tell you right now. You got to fight fire with fire. When you're bringing in people from the 7th century who have a faith in a false God, and they use that false faith in a false God to kill you or convert you, the only thing that can beat them is a faith in the real God, the one God, the true God, and that will defeat them every time as it has in the past. That is the absolute truth. And that's something that Trump has to reintroduce to the military. He must allow the boys to pray before they go into combat. He must allow them to get a Bible out and pray to God again, to Jesus, whatever they believe in. He must get rid of the atheists in the military who have destroyed that faith that gives a man the ability to fight. You look at a boxing match. How many years have I seen the very, very, very faithful Hispanic boxers who have brought faith back into the boxing ring? It's amazing to see that the American fighters no longer have this, but the Hispanics who come from, generally Mexico, have you ever seen how they cross themselves before a fight? Have you ever seen what they say after a fight? And they're usually cut off by the ring announcers when they thank God or their faith in God for the win. Have you ever heard? I mean, it's pretty amazing to watch this stuff. And the express atheism that is overwhelming virtually everything. So I have faith that this country will have a rebirth. And along with this rebirth will be a reinstitutionalization of a belief in faith and a belief in God at all levels of society. And it's going to come faster than you can believe. And the Democrats, by the way, are going to catch on real fast. They used to be the party of the blue-collar working men who went to church, by the way. And it's only when they attach themselves to the sickos on MSNBC and that ilk of losers and haters and whiners, it's only when they did that they started to lose one election after another, because that's a small minority of the American people. That's all I want to say. That is my sermon on the Mount of Friday on the Savage Nation. I don't want to say anything more about that. The rest is up to you. It's a long weekend coming up. Another one. Another hiatus between radio shows. The show ends at 3 bells on the West Coast. I can't wait till 12 bells on Monday morning, I tell you the truth. But I have my ways. I have many, many things that I do. 9 in the morning, I got something to look forward to, taking Teddy to the doctor for an x-ray. That should be fun.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
This is the list of stories on michaelsavage.com. Freighter was on autopilot when it hit U.S. destroyer. Now, that's a big story. I told you there was negligence on the part of the U.S. Navy ship. That's a given. That's been confirmed. Not one alarm went off on the U.S. Navy ship Fitzgerald when it was hit by the freighter. That means to me, and I was the only one in the media who told you what was wrong because I'm a boater. So far as I know, no one else in the media, at least that I know of, I could be wrong, has driven a boat of any size for any length of time, which I have for many years. I'm a boater for over 20 years. Both ships, to me, it looks like they were hacked. And the culprit would probably be North Korea. So the freighter was on autopilot when it made a U-turn and went at the destroyer. That's number one, which is very weird that no one noticed that it was doing a U-turn. Number two, the entire Navy crew was asleep. When a mountain is coming at them, it didn't detect it. None of our most advanced systems went off. Negligence, or all of the systems were hacked on the Navy ship, which means that every one of our ships now can be hacked and sunk. That's the new U.S. Navy, more concerned with affirmative action and, let us say, social engineering than fighting wars. That's what happens when liberals get control of anything, they destroy it. When it comes to the military, though, it puts us at great risk. All right, I'm the only one in the media who I know of who's asking the question about the collision at sea. I'm not buying the government media complex double talk lies. I don't care how many stars the Navy admirals have. They're spokesmouths for the military-industrial complex. There are more questions to this issue of the collision at sea than I have seen asked in the media. There are more questions than you can imagine. But I can reduce them to the simplest terms. Do you know what kind of systems they have on a naval ship, a warship? Do you have any idea what kind of money we invest in these things? If that captain and his crew could not evade a 29,000 mountain coming at him, how is he going to evade a missile coming at him? Or a bomb coming at him? Or a submarine coming underneath him? Are these people that incompetent after 8 years of Obama? They have radar, 3D radar. They have surface search radar. They have another system called ANSPS 73V, a different type of surface search radar. They have fire control radar. They have a sonar array, which I had on my boat. Every little boat has sonar array. They have tactical towed array sonar, which wouldn't have helped them in this case. And then they have 28 lamps, 3 shipboard system on them. But on top of all of that, they have people in the Navy called watch commanders. Every one of them should be questioned in a courts-martial or questioned before a courts-martial and find out, were they on watch or they're smoking a joint somewhere below decks when the ship was hit. I know you want me to hear say our hearts go out to all of the injured. I get that. That's what you want to hear. Well, of course our hearts go out. I don't know them. Do you know them? Our hearts go out. Another Hallmark card. Well, what's the good of talk radio and the media if you don't ask hard questions? Of course our hearts go out to our servicemen. I should say, and women, pardon me. I should say our service women and men after 8 years of Obama. Our service commanding women and the few men left in the military who are still in command. Of course our hearts go out to them. The once proud Navy reduced to rubble. Obama destroyed every branch of the U.S. service, including the Navy. Do you know who's the Secretary of the Navy? A woman who never ran a Chris Craft rowboat. Do you know who's in charge of the U.S. Air Force? Do you know who? A woman who never flew an airplane. Next story on michaelsavage.com. The latest poll shows that the majority of voters say the Russia case is hurting the country. No kidding. Really. Not everybody believes in her, the crazy woman from Southern California. Where is she? She shut her pie hole pretty. Where is she? She stopped screaming, impeach, 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 impeach. Where is she? New poll shows that the majority of voters say the Russia investigation of President Trump are hurting the country. The Harvard-Harris poll shows 64% of 2,237 registered voters taken between June 19 and 21, blah, blah, say that 64% say the investigations are hurting the country. Of course they are. It's a distraction. Bigger problems than that, okay? Much bigger problems. Topic 3. Linked up on the website. Alabama high school kills a conservative summer reading list because Michael Savage's books dominated. Now, there are other authors, some of whom you may have heard of, some of whom you may not have. But it's irrefutable if you look at the list that the dominant number of books that were on that list were mine. And it's interesting to see which were on there. The number 2 book that was on that summer reading list for the children is Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Michael Savage. Number 3, The Political Zoo, Michael Savage. The Enemy Within, Michael Savage. Trickle-Up Poverty, Stopping Obama's Attack on Our Borders, Economy, and Security, Michael Savage. And those are the top books on the list. So what happened was they banned the whole list in the school. They eliminated the entire reading list. So there's no bias there, no. So let's see what else is on the show. Donald Trump, yes, we're not going to mention Trump's War is Battle for America. You know about it. If you'd like to join the battle, buy the book or give it to someone. Trump won a mandate for change, and I am asking you to give away a copy of Trump's War to let us say, someone who didn't vote for Trump, or more importantly, I want you to give it to someone who did vote for Trump, who said, he's not doing what we asked him to do. That is not true. I am very critical of the movements toward liberalism. You know that. I talk about it every day. But let's not lose the big picture here. We still have the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, which we wouldn't have if she had won. But as a result of the victory in Georgia, I had a long conversation with my publisher, and both the publisher and I are relaunching Trump's War. And that is to rearticulate what we voted for. This is a specific book, not a generic book. This book is not about bashing liberals. That's been done for 25 straight years. And the reason I'm asking you, as my audience, as my loyalists, as my army, to go out and take out your copy of Trump's War, brush it off, dust it off, take it to work. Don't be afraid of the Democrats. You're protected by the American legal system. Bring it to work. Put it on your desk. Give it to an undecided. But most importantly, would you please give a copy of Trump's War to those who voted for Trump and walked away from him over the last several months? Trump's War is more important now than ever before. The Georgia special election proves we were right, that America wants real change. And by the way, Trump's War is the only roadmap on the market. None exist but this book. And we need to remind those in charge what they were voted in on, what the platform is, what's Trump's War about. Okay? This is our agenda. What parts of Trump's War is the president implementing? What parts is he doing the opposite of? Who is preventing the president from fighting this war, our war, on our terms? We then go down the list. Pelosi parties in Manhattan at LGBT night as dozen Democrats meet about replacing her. She's partying on while the Titanic is going down. She's on the aft deck partying at the LGBT party, not knowing that the party wants her gone. 1.4 million illegals working on the stolen Social Security numbers, Washington Times. Johnny Depp jokes about assassinating Trump. How brave of you, Johnny. All those men of action you play in your movies are all a joke, aren't they? You're nothing but a punk coward from Hollywood. You attack Trump, but you don't say one word about ISIS because you're afraid, you lousy liar, you. You're no different than the rest of them in New York and you know, they get me sick. They play tough guys. I'll punch him in the nose. I'll assassinate him. They play murderers. They play undercover agents. All they are is empty suits, every last one of them. I used to love him as an actor. No more Johnny Depp. No more Johnny Depp. I want to ask you something. When the savior of humanity, you know, the Nobel Prize winner who did nothing, Obama was president, what if a right-wing actor or any actor had said, I dream of being the next actor to kill a president? What if during the savior of humanity's reign of terror, someone from the other side of the aisle was on a television show and did what Kathy Griffin did and held up a head of Obama on a platter? What if, you get the picture, the Secret Service would have had them body slammed to the ground and probably rubber hosed them in a back room. They probably would have brought their mother in for interrogation and ripped their house apart. So you want to play the knockout game, keep playing it because the tide is turning, and you're going to be taken down by the new Secret Service. You know, Trump is being kept off guard by the left for a reason. They don't want his agenda imposed because it would cost them a lot of money, and they lose a lot of voters once people see how much better the country is when it's cleaned up. So naturally, they're doing everything they can to impede the revolution that we started in this country by having, you know, brought him forward and having gotten him elected. But once these shackles are removed from Trump, my suspicion is, I'd say it's 60-40, he's going to fire Mueller. I think he has the power now and the mandate, and everyone sees that Mueller's stocking the prosecutorial bench with devout Hillary supporters. People know Mueller's a fraud, just like Comey. They're all part of the same crowd. They don't want him to be president. Mueller's out. Trump has the power. So what's going to happen? They're going to get mad at him on television? What, Phil Griffin's going to get mad at him? The jerk who runs CNN's going to get mad at him? What do I care? They're not the president. So I think Trump will dump Mueller, and that'll be the end of it. People forget it in 2 minutes. The only ones who won't let it go will be the mad cows, that's all. Johnny Depp apologizes for Trump assassination joke. That's the headline on Drudge. Oh, the backlash finally. Mr. Cool, the tough guy. Why do you people go to the movies for these people? Why do you go see anything, even on TV? I told you. I try to scan past all those who showed themselves for what they are during the election. Sometimes I slip. I told you that. I stopped watching any replay with Robert De Niro. I made a mistake in L.A. At home, I watched one of his movies called The Comedian. I did it because I wanted to see that particular movie. Okay, it was a piece of garbage. But generally now I don't watch any movies with those who show themselves to be radical leftists and anti-American, in my opinion. Johnny Depp is on that list now. I used to love him, this guy. I thought he was a great actor. And I used to separate, by the way, the artist from their politics. No more. No more. I mean, Hitler was a good watercolorist, by the way. Can you separate his politics from his art? Oh, yeah, Hitler was a very good watercolorist. I know the critics said he was too architectural and too two-dimensional. I wish I could be as good a watercolorist as Hitler was. But I'm making a bigger point. Just because I liked his watercolors didn't mean that I didn't see him for the monster that he was. It's the same with Johnny Depp and the others. Don't go to their movies. Don't watch the replays. No matter how much you're bombarded by the psychos from Hollywood and those who run the PR agencies, just say no. You have the power. Here's another story on my website. Judge blocks deportation of more than 100 Iraqi Christians. Now, on the face of it, you say, oh, why are they deporting Iraqi Christians? That's so bad. They should deport Iraqi Muslims. You're wrong. Because Trump's immigration service has put these 100 Iraqi Christians on a deportation list for a real good reason. They've all committed felonies in this country. They're not just being deported because they're Christians. First of all, the crimes they committed were major. They all have criminal convictions. And now, of course, the ACLU is making believe that they care about Christians, which, of course, they don't. The second thing is that these Iraqi nationals, Christian or otherwise, and we don't even know if they're Chaldean Christians, incidentally, many of them convert to Christianity upon arrival, even though they're Shiite Muslims before they get here. And all of them have criminal convictions in this country since they arrived. They're gangsters. Are you listening to me? Shootings, killings, murders, rapes. Oh, they're deporting Christians. Who said all Christians are good? Where would that come from? You can wear a cross and cut someone's throat too. You can wear a cross and hold up a bank. You can wear a cross and rape somebody. What do you mean, Christian? They're criminals. Get them out of the country. We don't need them. Be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Okay, so the entertainer, actor Johnny Depp has now apologized for saying he'd like to kill Donald Trump. There's a huge backlash growing. The wise boys who run Hollywood are seeing it, and they're telling him to shut their mouths. And this is a new trend. It's happened. People are fed up with it already. Here's another one. A so-called Pulitzer Prize-winning so-called novelist expressed hope that Trump has a massive stroke. Now, before I play it, I want to key you to something. First, listen to the simpering voice of the so-called prize-winning so-called novelist, and you'll understand how he was awarded the Pulitzer Prize. It's a nonsense award. It's just a popularity contest amongst those in that profession. So let's listen now to the so-called Pulitzer Prize-winning so-called novelist trying to show how smart he is in 2003 wishing Donald Trump a stroke.
Every morning I wake up, and in the seconds before I turn my phone on to see what the latest news is, I have this boundless sense of optimism and hope that this is the day that he's going to have a massive stroke and, be carted out of the White House on a gurney. And every day so far I've been disappointed in that hope. But, hope springs eternal. He doesn't eat well. He's overweight. He has terrible nutrition. He doesn't exercise. It's not that hard to imagine.
Oh, you're so cute. You must be very popular in your crowd. You must be such a sunshine to all of them. Such a daily sunshine to your pals wishing hatred on everyone, pretending you're a good one. You're not good. You're garbage. You're evil. You're negative. And you know what negativity brings? Negativity. Keep it up. Just keep it up because you're going to see the results very, very soon. It's a new government. It's a new day. And we, the deplorables, are activated. We're near. We're here. We're everywhere. Remember that phrase? We deplorables, be very careful when you start bashing Trump in the streets, whether it be in San Francisco or in Albuquerque. You'll never know by how people look whether they agree with you or not. Be very cautious. That's all I can warn you because I'm a man of peace. I'm a lover of peace. All I can tell you is that those of us who voted for Trump are quite numerous. We're near, we're here, we're everywhere. So before you open up your simpering mouths and start blasting, be very careful. You never know. There could be unintended consequences to your particular sentiments. You can think anything you want. You can say anything you want. It's a free country. But when you start wishing a stroke upon the president, that's no longer freedom of speech. That's worse than yelling fire in a crowded theater. There are laws against it. This is the Savage Nation. I'm glad you could be with me on this Friday. I thank you for listening, and I hope to see you on Monday. I'll tell you what happens with Teddy when I'm back.
Savage.